BlackRock versus the US government. Who really has more power? Let me ask you a question. Who do you think is the most powerful in America? The president, Congress, or the Supreme Court? Now, what if I told you there's a company that controls nearly $11 trillion? Yes, you heard that right, 11 trillion. When America's entire GDP is around 27 trillion, one company has this much money. This company's name is BlackRock.
BlackRock.
BlackRock saw its total assets reach a record $14 trillion.
And today, we're going to find out who really has more power, your elected government or this financial giant. This isn't just a comparison. This is a reality check about how power actually works in the modern world. Let's dive in. In 1988, a man named Larry Fink created BlackRock. The beginning was simple, just an asset management firm. But today, it's the world's largest asset manager. Now let's understand what $11 trillion actually means. It's more than Japan's entire GDP. It equals the combined GDP of India, the UK, and France. It's $33,000 for every single person in America. What does BlackRock do? Simply put, they take people's money and invest it. Your pension fund, your insurance company's money, major university endowments, they manage everything. But that's not all. BlackRock has Aladdin, an AI-powered risk management system. This system is so powerful that over $21 trillion worth of assets worldwide are analyzed through this platform. That means a massive chunk of the world's financial markets depends on this one system. Now the question is, this much money, this much influence, is this just a business, or is this actually a different form of power? Now let's look at the government. The US government has a lot of power, right? First, they have the power to make laws. Congress can pass any law. They can raise taxes, regulate companies, even break up companies. Second, they have military power, the world's most powerful armed forces. This is hard power that no company possesses. Third, the Federal Reserve, America's central bank, is part of the government structure. They control interest rates, print money, and set the pace of the entire economy. Fourth, regulatory power, the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, FTC, Federal Trade Commission. These agencies regulate companies. But here's a big but. In theory, these powers seem unlimited. But in reality, the US government itself is drowning in $36 trillion of debt. Every year, they run a budget deficit, meaning they spend more than they earn. And the most interesting part? Who provides this debt? Companies like BlackRock buy US Treasury bonds. Now the real story begins here. BlackRock and the US government, how are they actually connected? The revolving door. There's something in America called the revolving door. It means high-ranking government officials leave their jobs to join big companies, and company executives get positions in government. In BlackRock's case, this is at an extreme level. After the 2008 financial crisis, who was advising the government? BlackRock. In 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic, when the Federal Reserve launched emergency programs, who was managing them? BlackRock. Do you know how many former BlackRock executives are in the Biden administration? Many are in key positions. Is this coincidence, or is this systematic influence? Financial dependency. When the government borrows money, it issues treasury bonds. BlackRock is one of the biggest buyers. What does this mean? It means the government depends on companies like BlackRock to function. Now you might say, hey, the government can control BlackRock through laws. Yes, they can. But will they? Let me give you an example. In 2010, the Dodd-Frank Act was passed. It was for financial regulation, but asset managers like BlackRock didn't face the same strict regulations as banks. Why? Because they're systemically important, but never officially got that tag. Let's talk about lobbying. Between 2020 to 2024, BlackRock spent millions of dollars on lobbying. They ensure that whatever laws pass don't go against their interests. Ideological influence. BlackRock doesn't just influence with money, they influence with ideas too. Larry Fink's annual letter to CEOs. This becomes a guideline for many companies worldwide. When he talks about climate change or ESG, environmental, social, governance, companies listen, because BlackRock is their major shareholder. Now the question is this good, is this bad, or is this simply a new form of power? Let's get a bit philosophical now. What does power actually mean? Does power only mean force, military, police, laws, these things? Or does power mean you can't function without me? BlackRock doesn't have a military, doesn't have the power to make laws, but they have economic leverage. If they decide not to invest in a certain sector, that sector will face a capital shortage. If they say they'll sell a company's stock, that company's value will drop. This is called soft power, and often soft power is more effective than hard power. Let me give you an example. In 2022, when the Russia-Ukraine war started, Western governments imposed sanctions, but simultaneously, companies like BlackRock also pulled out of Russian assets. Now the question, was this always a government order, or was it their own strategic decision? The answer is both. But the interesting thing is, these companies' decisions have an impact almost as powerful as government sanctions. Look at it from another angle. If the US government makes a bad policy, you can change them in an election after 4 years. But BlackRock, their CEO Larry Fink has been there since 1988. No elections, no term limits. So who's more stable? Who can do better long-term planning? Part 5. Real examples and events. Let's look at some concrete examples. 2008 financial crisis. When the entire financial system was heading toward collapse, who did the US government turn to for advice? BlackRock. They analyzed toxic assets, told the government where to invest. Did anyone question that a private company was getting such sensitive information? Yes, they did. But the government's argument was, no one has expertise like BlackRock. COVID-19 pandemic. In 2020, when the Federal Reserve started buying corporate bonds, which they'd never done before, BlackRock was hired to manage this program. They were deciding which companies' bonds to buy. Isn't this a conflict of interest? BlackRock itself invests in these companies. ESG movement. When BlackRock focused on ESG, the entire corporate world shifted, because they know BlackRock is their shareholder. If they don't listen, there could be consequences. But here's the question, who decided these ESG standards? Elected officials or a private company? Real estate market. In recent years, BlackRock and similar companies have been buying lots of residential properties. This is raising housing prices, making it difficult for normal people to buy homes. Can the government do anything? Not much, because technically, they're not breaking any laws. Conclusion. So what's the answer? BlackRock or the US government? Who has more power? Honestly, it's the wrong question, because these aren't competing forces, they're intertwined. Together, they've created a system where both are powerful, but in different ways. The government has legal authority. They can make laws, use force. BlackRock has economic leverage. The modern economy can't function without them. But what's concerning is accountability. If you don't like the government's decisions, you can vote them out. But BlackRock, you're not their stakeholder. Their clients are, who are themselves very powerful. This is a new kind of power structure, where there's a gap forming between democratic accountability and economic power. The bottom line is, in the modern world, power doesn't just sit in government buildings anymore. It's spread across boardrooms, trading floors, and algorithms. And the faster we understand this reality, the better we can shape our future. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments section. And if you like the video, Don't forget to like and share. See you in the next video. Until then, keep questioning everything.